The federal government has announced plans to overhaul bankruptcy laws this morning in a bid to try to make it much easier for small businesses to stave off administration during the COVID downturn. Now, the change would see companies with liabilities of less than $1 million stay in control of their business rather than immediately being placed in the hands of administrators.
The government's expecting an avalanche of company closures when emergency measures for insolvent businesses expire at the end of the year. And there are further challenges ahead, with millions of employers and workers set to be affected by changes to the JobKeeper program. Let's get more on those proposed changes to insolvency laws. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg joins me. Good morning, Treasurer.
Good morning, Lisa. Nice to be with you.
OK, so what kind of businesses are going to be able to go down this road?
Well, these are businesses with liabilities of under $1 million. That covers around 76% of those businesses that are currently going through the insolvency process, and 98% of those businesses have less than 20 employees. So by and large, they're going to be small businesses, whether they're in the food industry, whether they're in the hospitality or the retail industry, or indeed the tourism industry. Many of these businesses have done it very tough through COVID. They've had to close their doors because of the health restrictions, but we know that they're viable businesses. So even though the bills have been racking up, whether it's for energy, for rent, interest on their loan or their insurance bills, those bills have been racking up. And rather than going into a liquidation process where they lose control of the company, we want those businesses to stay in control, to restructure their balance sheet, to work out an agreement with the creditors, and then to get out on the other side of this virus.
And how many do you think are in that situation?
Well, we know that at least 2,000 insolvencies have been put on hold because of the temporary measures that we've put in place, which has lifted the threshold for the statutory demands that can be made by creditors. That has been very helpful in buying some time. This is now a permanent change, and this will allow these businesses to work with an insolvency small business practitioner to come up with a restructured plan over the course of 20 business days. Then that will be put to the creditors, and the creditors will have 15 business days to vote. And if they vote 50+1 in favour of that plan, then the current management, the current board will stay in place and trade out of this crisis.
It's not going to exacerbate this issue that we've talked about the zombie companies that have sort of basically been just ticking along because of JobKeeper?
Well, you still need that support of the creditors. You still need 50+1, and that is an important safeguard that's in place to ensure that those businesses that the creditors think will be viable on the other side can restructure and can stay in control.
No one's going to be surprised with your speech today, where you are officially ditching any hope of getting back to surplus, and you're going to be concentrating on spending. Are we ever going to be out of debt in our lifetime?
Well, of course, that is the goal, but we do know that the economic shock has been like no other, not just for Australia, but also for the rest of the world. Australia has fared a lot better than other nations, but there is still a big hole in the economy. So that's why plans and policies like JobKeeper, as well as the $750 payments, the cash flow boost to help small businesses with working capital, have been so important. But what you'll see in the budget in just 2 weeks' time is the transition out of those income supports, helping to get people into jobs. We're also undertaking supply-side reforms. Today's announcement about insolvency is an example of that. It doesn't hit the budget bottom line, but it can be significantly important and helpful to businesses to be able to trade out of this crisis. Cutting red tape, other tax incentives, bringing forward infrastructure are other measures that we're looking at.
Now, the job seeker supplement is going to be reduced tomorrow. A lot of people are worried about that. Labor wants to know, what's the Treasury modelling saying about how many jobs are going to go because you're cutting this payment?
Well, we've actually extended the payment.
Yeah, but it's cutting tomorrow. It's going, if you're a single, it'll go down to about $58 a day. And
before this crisis, it was significantly lower than that. And what we've said is that at the end of the year, Lisa, we will revisit that rate for the job seeker coronavirus supplement, and that of course we're leaning in to provide continued support. So we recognise that people are doing tough. This money is really important to them, but we also know that the best thing we can do to help people who are on job seeker is to get them into a job. So you'll see other initiatives in the budget in 2 weeks' time that are designed to help create more jobs across the economy. And in the most recent unemployment numbers, we saw the rate come down, Lisa, from 7.5% down to 6.8%, the single biggest drop in 32 years. And 111,000 jobs were created. A lot of those jobs are going to women, a lot are going to young people, and that is very welcome.
Hey, Treasurer, Paul Keating didn't miss yesterday with the RBA. He says basically they're late to the party. They need to be helping the government more. Does he have a point?
No, he doesn't. This was a very nasty, personal, vindictive, unnecessary, misguided attack by Paul Keating. The Reserve Bank has done very well through this crisis. Unlike other crises, they didn't have room to move on monetary policy. During the GFC, the cash rate came down by 425 basis points. That was equivalent to a $100 billion stimulus into the economy. But because the cash rate was already low during this crisis, it could only come down by 50 basis points. But what the Reserve Bank did is that they pumped liquidity, some $75 billion into the banking system to stabilise it, which was good news for customers. And then they also purchased government bonds on the secondary market, some $60 billion worth of government bonds. So we've worked very closely with the Reserve Bank. I note that this morning, distinguished economists like Warwick McGibbon have really slammed Paul Keating for his comments. And you have to ask the question, why did he make these comments just 2 weeks after the Reserve Bank had made some comments about the superannuation guarantee and the trade-off between wages and that increase? Many people are left wondering what is Paul Keating's motives behind this nasty, unnecessary attack. And I have to say, we as a government value the independence of the Reserve Bank when it comes to monetary policy. We as a government are in control of fiscal policy, but the Reserve Bank is in charge of monetary policy, and the Reserve Bank has come a long way from the time when Paul Keating said that he had the Reserve Bank in its pockets, in his pocket, and it just followed whatever he wanted. That is not the case today. The Reserve Bank is independent, and he shouldn't be attacking the bank like he has.
Josh Frydenberg, thanks for your time.
Thank you.